So we'll discuss MCQs today. The first one is Jan 2021, Unit 5. 10 MCQs are there. In the first question, a mixture of oxygen and nitrogen are kept at a same temperature. And oxygen molecules are more massive than, because oxygen is O2, so that will be 32 and nitrogen is 28. If they have the same temperature, means the kinetic energy should be same, means half mv square for oxygen should be equals to half mv square for nitrogen. So if the mass of oxygen molecule is greater, then their speed should be less. And if the mass, because this half mv square should be same for both of them, as they are at the same room temperature. So speed of the nitrogen molecule should be greater. Mean nitrogen molecule will move faster as compared to that of oxygen molecule. So we check the options. The mean velocity of oxygen is greater. No, oxygen cannot be greater. The mean speed of oxygen is same. It cannot be same because they have the same temperature, so same kinetic energy, but not the speed. The half mv square should be same. The mean kinetic energy of oxygen molecule greater, that's also wrong. If the room temperature is same, then they should have the same kinetic energy. That's why option D is the right answer, that the mean kinetic energy of oxygen molecule is same as the nitrogen molecules. In question 2, scientists believe that some mass of our universe consists of a dark matter. Which of the following statement about the dark matter is correct? So dark matter absorb all the electromagnetic radiation. No, that's not correct. It does not emit any electromagnetic radiation. That's why we are not able to detect. That's correct. It exerts no gravitational force. There is a gravitational force because of the dark matter, and it is formed from antimatter. No, dark matter. The composition of a dark matter, we cannot say, we are not able to detect because it does not emit any electromagnetic radiations. In question 3, the penetration of matter by radiation depends on ionization of radiation, ionizing power. Which of the following statement is correct? Alpha is weak ionizing, so stop by thin paper. No, alpha is having a high ionizing power. So when it ionizes the particle or a region, so the range will be shorter. So alpha are highly ionizing, so they travel few centimeters in air. That is correct. Gamma is highly ionizing. No, it's not high. It's highly penetrating is correct, but not ionizing. And gamma is weak ionizing and not very penetrating. That is wrong. Weak ionizing is correct, but they have a large penetration or a range. So B is the right answer. Question 4. A metal bar is heated then allowed to cool. The wavelength at which the peak emission are determined. Which of the following statement is correct? So the lambda max into T will be equals to 2.89 into 10 to the power 3, the Wien's law. So which of the following statement is correct related to the lambda max? If the lambda max decrease, the metal cool. They are inversely proportional, because if a lambda, when two quantities are inversely proportional, the product is constant. So if the lambda max is decreasing, the T should increase. Or if the lambda max is increasing, it means the T should decrease. So if the lambda max is increasing, the metal bar cools. That's correct. B is the right answer. For any question, if you're not able to understand or you want me to repeat, I will repeat that. In question 5, a car is driven along an uneven road. This forced the car into a vertical oscillation over a time. The energy of oscillation of a car increased by factor 4. The amplitude of oscillation increased. So the formula E is equals to half kx square. If the energy has increased by 4, if this factor is increased by 4, how, what is the relation between the amplitude and the energy? It's vary with a square. So if the amplitude is double, square of 2 or square of double will be 4. So means if the amplitude is double, then the energy will be 4 times. So as I mentioned, the energy become 4 times. So how much amplitude should increase? It should increase by factor 2. And same thing, if the amplitude increased by factor 3, the energy increased by 9. If amplitude increased by factor 4, energy increased by factor 16. Star Vega has a luminosity 5 times the luminosity of star Altair. The distance from Vega to Earth is 1.5 the distance from Altair to Earth. The intensity of a radiation from Earth on Earth from Vega is IV, and intensity of radiation on Altair is IA. We need a ratio. So like this is Earth, the luminosity of the star is, this is 5 times the luminosity of, like this is 5L, this is L. And the distance is 1.5 times. So this distance, like Earth is much closer to this. This is 1.5 times the distance compared to this. What we want a ratio. So intensity, so we are receiving the flux. So intensity is like luminosity. So for 6, when we check, see, so intensity is equals to flux divided by 4 pi d square. Or and or power basically. You can say power. So intensity, or you can say the flux is equals to, the intensity of a radiation is power divided by area. And area is like pi 4 pi d square is there. So if we compare this one, like say for IA and IV, we want to compare the flux of the two. So IV, this is equals to, power is how many times? It is 5 times, and 4 pi d square. Distance is how many times? It is 1.5 times. And here this power distance is d example. And so we want to compare like all the factor about I, this will be IA is equals to the power or the luminosity divided by 4 pi d square. So how the power is changing, like if the, how the intensity of IV will change, the relation between power or luminosity, you can say, the relation between the luminosity and intensity directly proportional. If this is 5 times, this will also increase by 5. And what is the relation between the distance? It vary with the inverse square. If the distance is 1.5 times, it vary with the square. So this will decrease by 1.5 square. So one of the factor is increasing by 5. One of the factors increasing by 5 and another factor is decreasing by 1.5 square. So 5 divided by 1.5 square, that is 2.22. Means And this example, if we compare this intensity as 1, this will change by 2.22. So what will the ratio of IB over IA? 2.22, or it will be about C. So like the nearest answer is 2. That's why we write 2. Is it clear? Any doubt in this? Okay. A small satellite of a mass 245 kgs orbiting the Earth. The radius of orbit is equals to twice the radius of Earth. The weight of a satellite in its orbit is about, so a satellite is orbiting the Earth and its radius is twice the radius of Earth. Means like this total distance is 2 times the radius of Earth. And the mass is 245, so gravity will be 245 times g. According to Newton law of gravity, we can use a Newton law of gravitation, or we can also use the value of, like, for we can work out the value of a g. G is equals to capital G mass of Earth over RE square. Mass of Earth is constant, G is constant, RE is the like the radius. So what happened? The radius become twice. If this become twice, it is vary with the square. So gravity, and it is the inverse square again. So if this become twice, so this will decrease by 4. So the gravity will decrease by factor 4. If a gravity is decreasing by factor 4, the weight will also decrease by factor 4, because weight is equals to mass times the gravity. So mass times the gravity by 4, so the weight will also be decreased by 4. So if you work out the weight, 245 times 245 times 9.8 divided by 4. So that will give us 600 Newton. So B should be the right answer. Because the gravity is decreasing by 4, so the weight should also decrease by 4. As the distance has increased double, so the gravity decreases with a square. Another question, two stars X and Y have the same surface temperature. X has a radius 25% larger than Y. The luminosity of X is Lx and luminosity of Y is Ly. What is the ratio between luminosity of X and luminosity of Y? Two stars have the same surface temperature. So according to Stephen Boltzmann law, like luminosity is equals to 4 pi r square and t raised to power 4. Sigma is also there. 4 pi is constant. Like 4 is constant, pi is constant, sigma is constant. So we can say luminosity is equals to r square t raised to power 4 in terms of factor, like in terms of change. So X has a 25% larger radii, and they have the same, they mentioned they have the same surface temperature, so T is also a constant here. So we can exclude the T from our result. Now, what is the relation between the radius and the luminosity? 25 times larger means, like if X is having a radius of R, it will have 1.25 R, like 25 times. If we say the radius of Y, because X has a radius 25 times larger than Y. So if the radius of the Y is example R is there, so radius of X will be 1.25 R square. So we just have to do square of 1.25, like 1.25 square, that is 1.56. So this proportional to R, and this Lx is proportional to 1.25 because 25, if this is like 1 r is there, this is 1.25 r and then whole square. So this increased by a factor because 1.25 square, so means it become 1.56. So if you take a ratio for Lx over Ly, this will be 1.25 r square over 1 r square. So this r square will cancel with r square, 1.25 square, which is 1.56. So the ratio will be 1.5, 1.56 or 1.6. And you can also use that the ratio of the ratio of the luminosity is inversely proportional to the, in this case, directly proportional to size and inversely proportional to the distance. The graph shows the acceleration. So first you will identify which function is this, because if the starting with origin, so this is sine. So this one is opposite, so this is minus sine. So if displacement, in what case, like example, if a displacement is displacement and acceleration are opposite of each other, like if a acceleration is minus sine, then the displacement should be sine. And what about the velocity? The velocity derivative of sine theta will be cosine theta, so velocity will be cosine. So acceleration is minus sine according to graph. Which graph shows a variation of displacement? So if acceleration is minus sine, the displacement should be sine graph. So which is a sine graph? This is a sine graph. This one is minus cosine graph. This one is plus cosine graph, and this is minus sine graph. So because if acceleration is minus sine, displacement will be opposite of acceleration. So it should be sine graph. That's why A should be the right answer. And which one will be a velocity graph? So how to work out the velocity? Because if the displacement is a sine graph, the derivative of a sine is cosine. So the velocity should be cosine. So cosine graph is, this one is a cosine, so C will be the cosine graph. Is it clear, this one?